think too little of yourself.
Oh, you think you see through me, do you? Well, you don't. But I see through you!
We would be honored if you would join us.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? I always ask that of all my prey. Go ahead. Make my day.
This is Sparta!
First rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club.
I'm Batman.
Yeah, I got a question. Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe?
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Turk Raz Podcasts. My name is Turk and I'm here with my good buddy Raz. We bring you our thoughts and reactions to what's happening in pop culture today and go back in time to revisit classic films of the 80s and 90s.
All right, well, welcome back to the Turk Raz Podcast. This will be our full Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness review. Hopefully you all had a chance to go see the movie by now, as it has been out for a week. Big spoiler warning, because we are going to be talking about specific things in this review.
Hi, I'm Dr. Stephen Strange, Master of the Mystic Arts. Show me the demons.
Overall, I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
You and I are kind of on the same page. We enjoyed it. There's a lot going on in this movie, and there's some big things that happen, though this movie is in no ways big as I thought it might be, like the Avengers, like Infinity War, or Endgame. Don't get me wrong, it is a huge movie, but not in a way I think a lot of people think it was going to be. For one thing, the movie was really short compared to other Marvel movies, and I think that is why the movie maybe works for me. It didn't overstate its welcome.
Release the Rami cut.
The basic premise of the story, Doctor Strange is still dealing with the aftermath of the events from Spider-Man No Way Home. He doesn't remember Peter is Spider-Man, but he remembers Spider-Man is a character that is around. So he's still reeling from almost breaking the universe and just barely fixing things at the last minute. Typical superhero.
Yes. Yeah, they can't think of everything.
And they can't. We see that he's unsatisfied from the events of Endgame. In order to save the universe, if you think about it, he essentially asked Iron Man to sacrifice himself to defeat Thanos. You can imagine there is a lot of regret on his part. And as we see in the movie, he is a man that is dwelling in regret. His failed relationships with Christine, loneliness, you definitely see that at her wedding. He has a lot on his mind.
He does.
And then in this movie, we meet American Chavez. America Chavez.
She's not American. Her name is America.
He tries to save her from this unseen force, but quickly realizes it's witchcraft. So we go on this wild ride in the multiverse with Doctor Strange and his little buddy, America. Here's some of the highlights of the movie that I liked. There's stuff that I liked, and there's things I didn't like. The thing that I liked was Sam Raimi's direction. I felt that this was Sam's movie, but it also felt like MCU movie. His influence is all over it.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed Sam Raimi's take on the horror aspect of making a Marvel film kind of like a horror film together. Yeah. And that was really cool because I don't think I've ever really seen that before. And so it was nice to have that special flavor in a Marvel film. At least that kind of made it different than the rest. You know? Yeah,
this movie felt very different. And I think that's maybe another reason why I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just, another cutout Marvel film. Like there was some real consequences for their actions, and some of that is played out from previous movies as far as it relates to Doctor Strange and Wanda Scarlet Witch. And another thing that I like, that it's pretty cool, this is not in the movie, both Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi now a part of the MCU. I think that's kind of cool. We got, people were kind of excited with No Way Home, just thinking that we're going to have multiple universe Spider-Man, and then and especially Tobey Maguire. I think for a lot of people, especially you, Turk, you were pretty excited to see Tobey Maguire back. I'm pretty excited to have Sam Raimi back because of the Evil Dead, and a lot of people are pretty reverent towards those classic movies.
Now, here, this is side jumping a little bit, but what do you think the possibilities of maybe getting a Marvel Zombies film?
I think the possibilities is really good. I think they kind of touched a little bit of that up in the What If animated.
Okay, because I'm not a huge comic book person, but one of the runs that I did grab at least 15 years ago was the Marvel Zombies, and there was a couple of runs of them, and I did make sure I'm pretty sure I have all of them, or of those runs anyways, a complete set. So those are like the one set that I'm actually kind of proud of. But to be able to get a whole movie on Marvel Zombies, I think that would be really cool, and Raimi would be the guy.
I think he'd be the perfect choice for that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised after this film, because the film is doing pretty well box office wise. Like, it's already like over 600 million worldwide.
Yeah, it's a Marvel name, and it's going to do well regardless. It may have a drop off, on other weekends, but I think it's just got a huge name behind it.
Benedict Cumberbatch, I think, like we've stated this before, he was a perfect choice for Doctor Strange, and we see more range in this film. Yeah. To piggyback off what you said a little bit earlier about like a horror movie, I know the first director, Scott Derrickson, wanted to make his second movie, like this one. He was going to direct it originally. He wanted to make MCU's first horror movie, but it's only poetic that it ended up being Sam Raimi to be the one to do that. I think that was the perfect choice. Sam Raimi's really good at balancing horror and comedy together. Just, for example, the Evil Dead series. Minus the first really low budget one, but if you get the Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Ash vs. Evil Dead, you really see that slapstick. It's almost like Three Stooges meets zombies in a way. This movie didn't have the slapstick like Raimi's other projects. It's more so the way he shoots things, the techniques he uses. And I felt there was a lot of MacGuffins out of this movie, like the Dark Hold, the book of Visante in the Necronomicon. And that's the book of the dead in the Army of Darkness. So if
Klaatu, Miranda,
okay.
To me, I felt that connection. And even the zombie Doctor Strange has makeup and prosthetics like the Deadites in the Evil Dead series. So as soon as I saw Benedict with it, I'm like, that was Ash, because it looks similar with almost like the protruding cheeks where it's indented around like the eye sockets.
It was really well done. And that's one thing that Marvel doesn't cheap out on is visuals, and their effects are always good.
Yeah, the visual effects were fantastic, but that's to be expected with most Marvel films. The only thing I saw at the end that was a little dodgy was that post-credit scene at the end where the Charlize Theron and him, they're going into the world where Dormammu is.
Right.
I thought that was a little bit dodgy, but other than that, I thought the effects were fantastic.
In hindsight, I think the only thing that could have made this thing better for me was to go see it in 3D. Perhaps that would have heightened the experience, because I think this film would have been perfect for 3D.
I think so.
So, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of 3D on a lot of films, but I think this is one that maybe needs to be seen in 3D. So if you haven't seen it yet, go get a ticket and go see it in 3D.
Well, a little side note, when we went to the theater, all of us, we thought we were in a 3D one, so we grabbed the glasses, and then
you grabbed like 4 glasses. We didn't need them, and you just threw them on the floor.
They fell out of my hand, and it was dark in there, and I couldn't see.
He's like, enough of this. I'm not holding these glasses on my lap, and he just chucks them on the floor.
That's not what happened there. This is a slight exaggeration. It was dark in there, and I was confused, and there was some of those scare pop-outs. I must have dropped.
Yeah,
them.
I believe it.
And again, I've said before, one of the biggest highlight to me was Benedict Cumberbatch. He's always fantastic. I thought this movie deepened the character's arc. And you and I had some conversations about some of our concerns here, because you're like, I'm worried that this movie, yes, it's a Doctor Strange movie, but it's going to be more of a vehicle. It's going to focus on other characters and it's going to throw them to the side. Where this movie, I found first and foremost, it was a Doctor Strange movie. It was about his journey and his character. I was happy about that because I felt like it didn't feel like it was another character's movie.
I kind of disagree on that. And I'm not going to say that it was a Wanda film, but I will say that it was a very close, like it was a very 50-50 film for me. It was both Doctor Strange and a Wanda focused film. That's not a terrible thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but because you do have to focus on the villains, of course. I get that. And she was the villain in this. But, some of the stuff in there that I didn't understand because I didn't watch the television show with the WandaVision. So some of that stuff didn't really resonate with me. So I had a hard time kind of getting into her character as, Scarlet Witch or whatever. I do wish there was maybe a little bit more Doctor Strange, but...
We're talking about our highlights.
Okay, we're talking about our highlights. Okay.
Yeah, we're doing our highlights. But that's a good point.
Okay.
I think the point is fine, but you're right, because I said that I agree with you. Wanda would be the second most important person in this movie. I thought she was the second most important, but I didn't feel like her character role in this superseded Cumberbatch's. To me, it was still Stephen Strange movie. She was obviously a close second. It's his movie first and foremost, but it's also hers. Like, because really the two main characters in the movies there usually is, like, if you watch Heat, Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, it is just as much as a Robert De Niro movie as it is Al Pacino. And Robert De Niro is technically the villain in the movie. And they're equally just as important. So I don't have an issue with that. I'm not saying it's an issue. I'm not saying I have an issue. But to me, it's still overall...
Throw out Thanos. Thanos didn't get a ton of screen time. And he was the main villain throughout 20 films. And, well, not the last whole 20. But he didn't get a lot of screen time, even in Endgame, only in the end battle scene.
No, Infinity War, he was basically, one could argue, he was the main character.
I don't think he was half the film. There were too many characters to focus on.
Yeah, but the thing is, runtime necessarily doesn't mean he's the main character. Just take, for example, for argument's sake, Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now. He's like, 10 minutes in the movie? He's barely in the movie and it's at the end and he's the top billing and he's the main character. The whole movie's surrounded about him. He's not necessarily has the most screen time. Screen time doesn't necessarily mean you're the main character.
It means a lot to me, though. Well, to me, it means a lot, screen time.
It can play a role, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're the main character. Or the
I'm not counting minutes
character.
where it's like, oh, she got a minute more. I'm not talking about that.
No, she's the second most important person in this movie. Where I'm coming from, I felt this was still a Doctor Strange movie through and through. Overall, it is his movie, but yeah, Wanda plays a huge role.
Okay.
Okay, and then, of course, Benedict Wong as the Supreme Sorcerer. Him and Cumberbatch's chemistry is always fun. I thought they gave him a little bit more to do in this movie because he is the head of the Sorcerers, so it was good to see him. You see a deepening in their relationship. They have kind of like, there's a little bit of bickering, but you can tell both are pretty fond of each other. There's a deep respect, and that's good to see that they continued that in this movie.
Yep. Sure.
Yeah. One of the biggest surprises of me in this film was actually that America Chavez. I was pleasantly surprised by her in this movie because I, like maybe you, I was kind of thinking this was going to be the one character I was not going to give a shit about. I was worried that she was going to be the typical young teenager who knows it all, really annoying, doesn't need anyone else's help. But she was actually kind of sweet and she needs help and guidance. You could see that. Yes, she had power, but she didn't know how to use it. And she did need Stephen Strange to help her, to save her. Like, it wasn't like she
like a father figure.
Yeah, like a father figure or a parent, whatever, how you want to cross-cut it. Because there's lots of loss with her. The difference is like, okay, Kate Bishop from the Hawkeye series. The biggest difference is that she comes in, she's always like had to be like, in her mind, act like she's better, or she didn't listen. The problem I have with that show, I know you haven't seen it, is that she is really like, she's a huge fan of him, but when she's with him, she doesn't listen to him. She doesn't really follow him. Where with this, you can see with this America, she does. You see their relationship. It's like a father and daughter, a mentor. This is a relationship that Doctor Strange needed because so much loss in his life. Like, you think about it. He lost his girlfriend and he comes to the realization in almost every universe, he doesn't get her.
Yeah, in every universe, he's a bad guy.
Yeah, where he's one of the bad guys and they kind of look at him as a bad guy. Like He basically is seen as this arrogant prick that always has to hold the knife. And you knew that was going to come back, when she said that at the wedding, that you always need to do the cutting. And then you knew that when she asked him, "Are you happy?" you knew he was bullshitting. Because then that comes to, when that full circles, when he's asking Wong, "Are you happy?" I thought that was, so the movie had some nice themes there and character development. And to go back to America, the biggest difference I saw in this movie, how it handled like a character like that versus like, say, Ray, is when Scarlet Witch and then America are fighting at the end. Benedict kind of tells her, has a pep talk with her that you have the power and you can do this. Go kick her ass. So she goes, but in the end, she does hold herself a little bit, but she still is outpowered, outskilled by Scarlet Witch.
Versus what we saw in The Force Awakens when Rey fought Kylo Ren. Clearly, Kylo Ren, with all those years of Jedi study, being taught under Luke Skywalker, she should have not stood a chance at all, even when she has that Force connection where it's like, oh, the Force. And what was bullshit about that, she goes on to kick his ass, and problem it really made is that it derailed Kylo Ren as a legitimate villain or character. And also, we find out, which was garbage, that Rey was a Palpatine. Palpatine is extremely powerful, but it was pretty straightforward from George Lucas that the Skywalker blood was special. So you kind of mooted Kylo Ren's frickin' power set.
I'm Ray. Ray who? Ray Skywalker.
This is #1 bullshit.
Where I liked how this handled this, no matter what, she still could not beat Scarlet Witch, and she shouldn't beat Scarlet Witch because Scarlet Witch is so powerful. Right. So I liked how this movie handled that. And the bond, like I said, I enjoy the bond between them in this movie. Another thing that I liked about this film that was a highlight to me is that Scarlet Witch being the big bad villain in the movie, I thought it was a great take subverting expectations with this, because watching the trailers, I didn't see Wanda being the villain. I kind of thought it'd be more or less they have some type of unknown or is a multiverse villain, and I thought he needed her help to defeat this. Actually, she is the big bad.
Yeah, she is good as a villain, I guess, because she is known to do that.
Another thing that I did like is that we took a character that we followed all the way back to Age of Ultron, was a hero, but you could see like they were on the opposing side initially. And this is a person's like moral compass kind of fluctuates, doesn't know where they sit, has went through some loss. I'll get into some of the negatives about her when we do like stuff we didn't like about this. But what I liked is that we got to see one of our heroes fall from grace. To me, that's where the black and white, her being a sympathetic anti-hero villain.
Yeah.
So it worked for me in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish I liked it as much as you did. I mean, like I said, all my likes are from the visual aspect and the Sam Raimi stuff and the flavor of his horror. Like, I really, really love that. I want to see more of that. When it comes to some of the characters, I just didn't enjoy some of the things. Of course, the Wanda stuff, I didn't understand the Wanda so much because I didn't watch her television show on Disney Plus. So I didn't really understand all that from her universe. I thought America Chavez was, for the most part, pretty good. Like, she was a sweet girl, and yeah, she did need guidance, and I'm kind of happy that they allowed her to take the guidance from Doctor Strange. I also felt that Doctor Strange, although he did kind of help, I don't feel like he really was the guy to save the day. I don't think it was really up to him to make things right at the end. It was more or less America Chavez, and it was Wanda who made the right choice. I don't feel like it came down to Doctor Strange kind of saving the day.
Well, the thing is, it depends on how you define saving the day, because Luke Skywalker, did he save the day in the second Death Star and defeat the Emperor and the dark side? No, it was Anakin that basically killed him. So, but you still would say Luke saved the day. So, Doctor Strange, yes, necessarily he didn't physically take out Scarlet Witch, but that doesn't mean he didn't plant the seeds in motion to save the day. So I would disagree with you on that a little bit. Like, we tend to look at, it's like, okay, for example, Antimatter, a friend of ours, we have discussions on Revenge of the Sith, the duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin, and his take is always that there's no way, how the hell does Obi-Wan defeat Anakin, because he's the most powerful, he's the chosen one, and we argue that, Well, it was, and he said it was still a cop out that when he had the high ground, how could he still defeat him? Because we're like, well, it's Anakin's arrogance. Yes, Anakin is more powerful than Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan has more skill, more patience, and so that's what gave him the edge in their fight to finally defeat Anakin.
I agree with that.
So what I'm saying is that Doctor Strange knows right now Scarlet Witch is at her most powerful. She's a force of nature. It's not necessarily going to be him to do the cutting, like, with the blade or, the stab. That it's going to take a combination of everybody. And in the end, I think they realize that it has to be her. Realize that, that was the point of America showing her, opening up that portal for the kids to see her, what kind of monster she became. Because that was her whole motivation is that I lost everything. I'm a mother. I'm my children. I want to be with these children. This is my salvation. So they showed her that in her blind rationalization, what she was doing, like they needed to do this. So I was fine with it. And I think Doctor Strange was at the prominent of showing this. He's still the hero in my mind, but I mean, you can argue.
Yeah. I just feel like they defeated her with feelings. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, here, I'm going to show you what you've done to yourself. Here's a mirror. Take a look at the mirror. Oh, yeah, I am a bad person. Okay, I'm going to shut it down now.
Not the mama.
But the thing is...
I don't like that.
I know you don't like that, but it's Scarlet Witch who's been a hero. She's not a flat-out villain.
I know they want me to be sympathizing to her, but
I think that's okay. I think it's okay with Wanda. If it was Hela, I'd be like, you're right. If it was another character that was a villain we got introduced and they tried to pull the old sympathetic mom bullshit, I'm with you there because of Scarlet Witch, Wanda, and the history and what she was a part of, what she represented. I'm okay with her coming to the realization that I became what I fought against. So I'm okay with it. It worked for me.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Yep.
As far as things that I didn't like, to go back to Wanda, this is something that I'm going to kind of contradict myself here a little bit, but it's kind of borderline. Basically, they're fighting a wannabe mummy who wants to portal her way through another universe. She wants to take America's power, kill her to do so. Like, what a bitch. It was kind of weak in the writing in it. I'm like, okay, that's her motivation, is that she's willing to kill her rush. Like, I don't know. And they were like playing hot potato with this America through it. This movie kind of unofficially serviced as like a WandaVision season 2 for Scarlet Witch. I found her bits with her pretend kids really dragged in the film. I understand. I think their intention was to show us they want us to still stay empathetic towards Scarlet Witch. To go back to your argument, I found that I didn't sympathize with her, and I watched WandaVision.
Yeah, you did.
Because there was no repercussions for the stuff she did. Like, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the show, she basically holds us, a whole town hostage, and, people against their will, and makes up, like, this family, and she's doing some dastardly things, and she was not held accountable. Another problem and concern in this movie and other films I have going forward, especially with Phase 4, presumption that Disney, Marvel assume we are all watching the TV shows on Disney Plus to understand what is going on in this movie. Like, if you didn't watch WandaVision, you'd be confused with, like, what's happening to Wanda? Who are these children? I'm sure you were like, what is happening?
Yeah, I just assumed it came from the show. So that's, I knew that she had a show. So I'm like, okay, well, this is from her show, which I never saw.
But what about just like a layman kind of fan that just kind of watches these for fun, doesn't get really invested? You watch all these shows and all of a sudden Wanda is evil, witchcraft, and then there's these children. I don't like the fact that they're assuming that the TV shows should be, at least that's one thing I kind of liked about originally the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, like the first season, is everything was kind of supported the movies. Now the TV shows are setting up things, and the movies should be setting up things, and maybe the TV shows can branch with them.
Yeah. They're really relying on the connectivity between the Disney Plus shows and the movies because they want you to watch their Disney Plus, and I don't think you should have to watch a film. Like
time travel, multiverse, and all that. They kind of set up, I thought, the big bad in that show with the Kang the Conqueror, where this character should be kind of hinted at. Like, I thought the writing in this movie, to go back, was kind of weak. by no means isn't near like Black Widow or Eternals, but I thought there was some lazy tidbits of writing, kind of like with the Wanda stuff. I thought that was really weak. Some stuff were very convenient. This movie was still very predictable to me. Like while I was watching it, because like you knew right in the beginning with that alternate Doctor Strange with America, when he was going to drain her power to defeat that kind of fiery swirling thing, you knew this is going to play with Doctor Strange, that she's going to worry about him doing it, and then in the end he doesn't choose to, which was nice because they build a relationship, but was still pretty predictable. For example, this also plays with the Illuminati scenes. They are talking about Strange as the big threat, and they're not worried about Scarlet Witch. They're like, well, we can take care of her. Of course, she comes in and decimates them pretty easily, and like I thought that was so predictable.
Yeah,
I kind of don't want to see those in movies. If you're gonna kind of throw surprises to us, don't say it. The movie's too predictable.
Yeah.
One of my biggest things that I was disappointed was actually the multiverse cameos and surprises. I felt they were very underwhelming. The Reed Richards, everybody for years was fan casting that John was a
Krasinski, I think. He's from The Office.
And a lot of people talk about like he's a writer, director, he's a good actor. I didn't enjoy him as Reed Richards. I know it's an alternate universe Reed, but still, isn't this supposed to be kind of like a teaser to us that we might get one? I could care less if I see him.
If you were excited to see a Fantastic Four film and then you saw this little Reed Richards in the film and you're like, wow, that's what I can't wait to see.
Get this lame-o out of your yard.
He's supposed to be like super smart, and I felt that he was killed too easily. I don't think that Wanda should have been able to kill him like that. I think that was total bullshit, because I did read up on some of his abilities, and I don't think he can form his shape like super quick, and he can do things like he can't die just like you can't just make him explode. Like it's not possible with him.
And I know these are alternate universe characters. When you saw Thanos fighting like Captain America and Iron Man, they still could put up somewhat of a fight. We're here for power level. Obviously, Captain Marvel and Captain Carter would probably be like out of brute strength the most powerful. So you would think in a fight they might last long. But you're right. Like we don't know the properties of like Reed Richards. And what was that other characters with the voice? I don't know the character's name.
Some Eternals guy that no one watches. Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't know who that was, and I probably should have went and looked it up before we did this, but I just didn't care.
We shouldn't have to.
I'm a professional.
And that'll go back to my biggest problem with this.
Yeah.
I didn't like the fact that like she really decimated like Captain Carter, and then Captain Marvel, Maria Rambeau, who was in, that's Monica's mom. I think it was a little bit too much overpowered. I just didn't like it.
Captain Carter, though, in this universe, I hear that she doesn't have the serum.
She does.
She does?
Well, I don't know. Maybe
no,
not
someone
that
told
one.
me about the What If series, and she doesn't.
Did. She had the serum. I watched that episode.
Okay.
Man, though I did enjoy seeing Haley Atwell.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. Like, she is pretty smoking hot.
Yes, I think it works.
And I'll be honest with you, I think I'd be open to see her again, like another version of it, because
I would be too.
I think Haley Atwell is such a great talent, and I really do like the Agent Carter. Like, I mean, I watched the series.
You did.
Like, the first season was fantastic. Second season was very disappointing, but Haley Atwell was awesome, and it's not only that she's beautiful, but I like her character. I like Carter. Like,
just give me a great, strong female character, and she seems to fit the bill.
And that was one of the superpowers. Captain America, the first Avenger, was Agent Carter, because you thought, oh, is this going to be some type of, how sometimes movies make the love interests for our heroes a little bit, always kind of, they're sideline. They're useful when the plot kind of is convenient, where with her, right off the bat, you like Agent Carter. Yeah. So I'm always happy to see Haley Atwell as Carter.
Me too.
So I was disappointed to see her go.
She wasn't half bad.
She wasn't half bad. And I guess you can look at some positives here, but again, the Fantastic Four and X-Men characters were introduced here. I think this was more of like to let us know that we're going to maybe get some future storylines that are coming, but it didn't excite me.
No. Professor X's chair was kind of weird looking, and he could have taken her over. Like,
Well,
no
mentally,
way.
mentally,
he could have destroyed her brain. Like,
he could have.
Come on, like, it just bugged me.
And the thing is, I think there's an argument because she's so far gone in, like she's in a state of psychosis.
I understand.
He should, when he got into her mind, he should have actually easily controlled her, because like there's arguments that Professor X is actually one of the most powerful mutants out there because of the mind control. Yeah. I didn't like that. And also, you know what bugged me? I know this is a real nitpick, but he didn't have the bald shaved head. He had like the Captain Picard. Now maybe because he's filming that series.
They could have CGI'd that out.
They could have CGI'd that out, but it distracted me. You know, I love Patrick Stewart. He's awesome, but
great guy.
I wasn't really like, these cameos did not do anything for me. And then the Baron Mordo,
you idiot.
I was kind of sorry. I thought he would have played a little, like a bigger role. There would be more alternate with him, but basically this is just the one alternate universe of Mordo.
Something
Mordo.
like that.
On the other hand, I guess there's a positive that is given some time from Doctor Strange's This Worlds to kind of breathe a little bit.
Right.
Here's my biggest problem, and it's not necessarily just this movie. I know there's a lot of Easter eggs and there's a lot of big setups for the characters or future stories. What I thought the other phases did better, you didn't have to read the comics or have to like look stuff online. It was pretty straightforward where things were going, because you and I are not really well versed in Marvel like we are DC. But we shouldn't have to. Like, I found myself with, especially Phase 4, I had to go elsewhere to kind of understand things, where I thought before they're building up something to Avengers. I felt like right from Iron Man 2, they're building to something, where here, I don't know where Phase 4 is really going. And now, maybe if I understood the Marvel Universe better, it maybe be a different story. But I think this is one of my issues with Phase 4 right now, is that I feel like I have to go look to understand where it's not in front of me. That's one of my biggest problems.
As a normie, you shouldn't have to do a bunch of research to understand, like, okay, this is Phase 4. They're building towards getting this big bad, but we don't know what's really happening because some characters are flip-flopping, and now we don't know what everyone's doing. And again, there's no cohesive plan to get us to the end of Phase 4 or Phase 5 or however far they want to go with it. So they need to build somewhat of a track. You know, they need to build a long 10-year story and just piece it together along the way and have that common goal.
Like, I'm sure they're eventually going to start really focusing on who the major person is, but I just not sure what's happening. But overall, I thought this was a serviceable film. It makes me feel more comfortable and actually gives me more confidence in that Thor Love and Thunder is going to be an enjoyable film, because this movie, actually, the concerns I had and some of the stuff we talked about, I thought that they didn't come true here. Yeah, is this the best Marvel movie? But I think this is a step up from Eternals. I think it's a step up from Black Widow. I prefer this over Shang-Chi, in my opinion.
Yeah, see, I can't judge on that because I haven't seen Shang-Chi yet, but I will maybe force myself to do it one of these days.
It's okay, man. It's
yeah, I mean, I do want to try and watch them just so I can gather some more info about what's going on and whatnot. Yeah. But overall, to me, this was a weaker film. Visually, it was pretty cool, pretty stunning. But that's always going to be Marvel's thing. They're always going to put out some really good visual stuff.
Okay, but the question is did those concerns we had from our last podcast you talked about, did you feel that it was a mixed bag? Or like, not that I'm not talking about the quality of the film, but the concerns you thought that they were going to throw out the other stuff and usher in that agenda we've talked about? I felt like it wasn't.
No, it wasn't prominent in the film. There were a few instances that I noticed, but I'm not going to worry about talking about that. But all in all, for me, it's a little bit weaker of a Marvel film. I would give it maybe a 6.5 or so. Like, I don't think it's quite a 7 for me, so I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah. And this might be one of those movies over time, because I think the best way to describe this movie is it's kind of a hot mess. It's the story is not bad, but it's not great. But the visuals and the director supersedes. I think Sam Raimi and the acting by, like, say, driven like Benedict Cumberbatch and even Elizabeth Olsen kind of brings the film up more than it really is. And that's why I'm a little more favorable. So I give it like a 6.8 out of like it just missing that, but we'll see over time. Because like sometimes rewatching these films, I have a different perspective. So this is just our first viewing of it. It either it's gonna not hold up. Other than that, that's all I have to say about our spoiler review of Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, I'll admit the acting was pretty decent, so that's a plus for them. Yeah, I got not much more to say.
Thank you for listening to the Turk and Raz Podcast. You can catch us wherever you get your podcasts, such as Google, Spotify, Podbean, Audible, and Amazon. You can also follow us on Twitter at Turk Raz, as well as YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, smash a like button, and subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notification, and share our videos and podcasts out there. Thank you for listening, and we will see you again.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
No vanquishing. Just pull a rabbit out of somewhere. Do tricks.
A rabbit?
Yeah.
Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I don't do tricks.
You don't do tricks?
No.